On the remote shores of Lake Superior in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where the water is so cold that it preserves the bodies of drowned sailors for decades, and where the isolation of winter can cut off communities from the outside world for months at a time, there stood a small fishing village called Beacon Point that in 1911 consisted of perhaps 40 families living in wooden houses clustered around a natural harbor that provided some protection from the lake's legendary storms. Life in Beacon Point revolved entirely around fishing, with the men going out on the lake in small boats during the brief summer season, and the women processing the catch, mending nets, and maintaining households in conditions that would have broken people less accustomed to hardship. It was a hard life, but a predictable one, following rhythms that had been established over generations. But in September 1911, something happened that would shatter Beacon Point's predictability and create a mystery that defied every known fact about human physiology, about the limits of survival, about the boundary between life and death. This is the story of Katherine Bergstrom, a 31-year-old fisherman's wife who disappeared into Lake Superior's icy waters and emerged 9 days later, completely unchanged, with no memory of where she had been or how she had survived an impossible amount of time in conditions that should have killed her within hours. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from, and if this is your first time on our channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that challenge our understanding of human survival and the mysteries that sometimes emerge from the world's coldest waters. Beacon Point had been established in 1887 by Swedish immigrants who brought with them generations of fishing knowledge from the Baltic Sea and applied it to the even more challenging conditions of Lake Superior. The village had no road connection to the outside world, accessible only by boat during the warmer months or by dogsled across frozen lake when winter locked everything solid. Mail came once a week during summer, once a month in winter. Supplies were ordered months in advance and stockpiled because there was no possibility of getting anything quickly if you ran short. Babies were born at home with midwives because the nearest doctor was 50 miles away. People who got seriously injured or sick often didn't survive because help was too far away. It was a community that had learned to be self-sufficient and to accept that some things were simply beyond human control. Katherine Bergstrom had been born, Katherine Lundgren, in 1880 in the Swedish province of Västerbotten, daughter of a fishing family that had worked the Gulf of Bothnia for generations. She had emigrated to America in 1898 at age 18, following an older brother who had settled in Michigan's Upper Peninsula and written home about opportunities in the fishing industry. She was tall for a woman of that era, about 5'8". With blonde hair she kept braided and wrapped around her head, blue eyes the color of ice, and the kind of practical strength that came from a life of physical labor. She had married Eric Bergstrom in 1900, a match arranged between families, and the marriage had proven to be a good one by the standards of that time and place. Eric was a skilled fisherman, Anna was an excellent housekeeper and net mender, and together they had built a modest but comfortable life in Beacon Point. They had 4 children, 3 sons aged 10, 8, and 6, and a daughter aged 4 in 1911. The Bergstrom house was a 2-story wooden structure painted red with white trim, located about 100 yards from the shore, close enough to hear the waves but far enough back to avoid the worst of the storms. The ground floor contained a kitchen with a wood stove, a living area with a fireplace, and a small room where Eric kept his fishing equipment and did repairs during bad weather. The second floor had 3 bedrooms, one for Eric and Anna, one for the boys, one for their daughter. The house smelled of wood smoke and fish, and the pine soap Anna made herself from lye and animal fat. It was spotlessly clean despite the rough conditions, Anna maintaining standards of household order that she had learned from her mother and that she was now teaching her daughter. Life followed a rigid schedule determined by weather and season. Eric would go out on the lake before dawn with his 2 partners, Sven Nordstrom and Anders Lundqvist, in a 24-foot fishing boat with a small sail and oars for backup. They would check nets they had set the previous day, repair any damage, move nets to more promising locations based on where fish were running, returned to shore in late afternoon with their catch. Anna would spend the day cleaning and gutting fish, hanging them to dry or smoke, mending nets that needed repair, managing the household, caring for the children, and maintaining the garden that provided vegetables during the short growing season. It was exhausting work, but it was necessary work, and Anna performed it with the kind of stoic competence that characterized the women of Beacon Point. She was known in the community as particularly reliable, the kind of woman neighbors could count on in times of trouble. She had assisted at several births when the regular midwife was unavailable. She had nursed sick children through fevers when their own mothers were too exhausted to continue. She had taken in a widow's 3 children for an entire winter when the widow had broken her leg and couldn't care for them alone. People spoke well of Anna Bergstrom, saying she was exactly the kind of strong, practical woman that frontier life required. On September 12, 1911, Eric and his partners went out on the lake as usual, leaving before dawn. The weather forecast, such as it was, suggested conditions would be good for fishing, light winds and clear skies. Anna spent the morning doing laundry, a task that involved heating water on the stove, hand-washing clothes and linens in a large tub, and hanging everything outside to dry. The children were in school, a one-room building where all ages learned together under the instruction of Miss Helena Carlson, a unmarried woman in her 30s who had been brought from Sweden specifically to educate the community's children. Anna had the house to herself, which was a rare luxury, and she was taking advantage of the time to do thorough cleaning that was difficult with children underfoot. According to later testimony from neighbors, Anna was last seen at approximately 10:30 a.m., hanging laundry on the clotheslines behind her house. Mrs. Inga Nordstrom, whose house was next door, waved to Anna from her kitchen window, and Anna waved back. That was the last confirmed sighting of Anna Katherine Bergstrom for 9 days. When Eric returned from fishing that afternoon around 4 p.m., he found the house empty. The laundry was still on the lines, now dry and flapping in the breeze. Lunch dishes were still on the table from the morning meal. Anna's shawl, which she always wore when going outside, was hanging on its usual hook by the door. The children arrived home from school around 4:30 and asked where their mother was. Eric told them she must be visiting a neighbor. But as afternoon turned to evening and Anna didn't return, Eric became worried and began making inquiries. No one had seen Anna since mid-morning. None of the neighbors had received a visit from her. She had not gone to the community store or the church or any of the other places she might have reason to visit. Her absence was completely unexplained. By nightfall, Eric had organized a search party of men from the village. They searched every house, every shed, every building in Beacon Point. They walked the shoreline with lanterns, looking for any sign that Anna might have gone down to the water and suffered some kind of accident. They searched the woods behind the village in case she had gone to collect mushrooms or berries and gotten lost or injured. They found nothing. No trace of Anna, no indication of where she might have gone, no evidence of foul play or accident. It was as if she had simply vanished while hanging laundry in her own backyard. The search continued for 3 days, expanding to cover a wider area around Beacon Point. Men from neighboring villages joined the effort. A boat was sent to the nearest town with telegraph access to notify authorities that a woman was missing. But Lake Superior is vast and cold and cruel, and the prevailing assumption quickly became that Anna had somehow ended up in the water, perhaps walking too close to shore and slipping on wet rocks, perhaps suffering a sudden medical event that caused her to fall. If she had drowned, her body might never be recovered. The lake rarely gave back its dead, the cold water preserving bodies, but also making them sink and stay down, sometimes for decades. On the 4th day, the formal search was called off. Eric and his children held a memorial service, though no body had been found. The community gathered at the small church to pray for Anna's soul and to offer support to the bereaved family. Eric's sister, Margareta, moved into the Bergstrom house to help care for the children and maintain the household. Life slowly began to return to its normal rhythm, though the absence of Anna was felt by everyone in the tight-knit community. People spoke in hushed tones about what might have happened. about whether Anna had been unhappy and might have deliberately walked into the lake, though everyone who knew her rejected that possibility. Anna had been a devoted mother and wife, showing no signs of the depression that sometimes afflicted women in such isolated conditions. The mystery of her disappearance seemed destined to remain unsolved. But on September 21st, 9 days after Anna had vanished, something impossible happened. Sven Nordstrom was fishing alone about half a mile offshore, checking nets in an area where the water depth was approximately 40 feet. As he pulled up one of the nets, he felt unusual resistance, as if something large had been caught. When the net finally broke the surface, Sven saw a human body tangled in the mesh, and his heart sank, believing he had found Anna's corpse. But as he worked to free the body from the net, he realized something was wrong. The body was not cold and stiff as a corpse should be after 9 days in Lake Superior's frigid water. The body was not bloated from decomposition. The body was not showing any of the signs of death at all. The body was Anna Katherine Bergstrom, and she was alive. Sven later testified that when he first pulled Anna from the water, she appeared to be sleeping. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was slow but steady. Her skin was pale but not the blue-gray of drowning victims. Her body temperature felt normal to his touch, which made no sense because Lake Superior in September is cold enough to cause hypothermia within 30 minutes and death within a few hours. He shouted her name and gently shook her shoulder, and Anna's eyes opened. She looked at Sven with a confused expression, as if she didn't recognize him or didn't understand where she was. Sven, terrified and bewildered, rowed as quickly as he could back to shore, with Anna sitting in the bow of the boat, silent and staring straight ahead. The arrival at Beacon Point caused immediate chaos. People came running from all directions when they saw Sven rowing toward shore with Anna in his boat. Eric was working on his nets when someone shouted that Anna was back, and he dropped everything and ran to the dock. When Anna was helped out of the boat, she was walking normally. Her clothes were soaked, but she showed no signs of distress from cold or water exposure, and she looked exactly as she had 9 days earlier, unchanged, as if no time had passed. Dr. Anderson, who served as the closest thing Beacon Point had to a physician, though his training consisted only of experience rather than formal medical education, was immediately called to examine Anna. He took her to his house, where he could conduct a thorough examination away from the crowds. What he found, and what he carefully documented in a report that would later be sent to medical authorities in Detroit, was a series of impossibilities. Anna's body temperature was 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit, completely normal. Her heart rate was 68 beats per minute, completely normal. Her breathing was regular and unlabored. Her skin showed no signs of prolonged water exposure, no wrinkles or waterlogging, no damage from cold. She had no injuries, no bruises, no indication that she had struggled or suffered during the 9 days she had been missing. Her hair was still braided in the same style she had worn when she disappeared. Her clothes, once they dried, showed no damage beyond what would be expected from a single day of water exposure. Most impossibly, Anna's physical condition suggested she had not gone 9 days without food or water, which should have left her severely dehydrated and weakened. Dr. Anderson checked her mouth and throat for signs of dehydration and found normal moisture. He checked her eyes and found normal clarity. He asked her to perform simple physical tasks and found her strength and coordination completely normal. By every measurable standard, Anna Katherine Bergstrom had not experienced 9 days of deprivation and cold water exposure. She appeared to have been in the water for perhaps a few hours at most, but the calendar and the testimony of an entire village said otherwise. Anna herself provided no explanation for what had happened. When Dr. Anderson asked her where she had been for 9 days, she said she didn't know. When he asked her what she remembered, she said she remembered hanging laundry in the morning and feeling suddenly very tired and sitting down on the back steps to rest for a moment. The next thing she remembered was Sven pulling her from the water. The entire 9 days between those two moments was gone from her memory, as if time had simply stopped for her while continuing for everyone else. She had no memory of going into the water, No memory of being underwater. No memory of anything except hanging laundry, and then waking up in Sven's boat. Dr. Anderson, baffled by what he was seeing, decided that Anna must have suffered some kind of fugue state or amnesia, though this didn't explain her physical condition or how she had survived in Lake Superior for 9 days. He recommended rest and observation, keeping Anna at his house for the first night to ensure no delayed symptoms appeared. But Anna showed no symptoms at all. She slept normally through the night. She woke in the morning with good appetite. By the afternoon of September 22nd, Dr. Anderson had to admit that he could find nothing wrong with Anna and allowed her to return home to her family. Eric and the children were overjoyed to have Anna back, treating her return as a miracle that they didn't need to understand. But others in Beacon Point were disturbed by what had happened. How had Anna survived 9 days in water cold enough to kill most people within hours? Where had she been during that time? Why did her body show no effects from the ordeal? And, perhaps most disturbing, why did she have no memory of what had happened? The mystery generated considerable discussion and speculation. Some believed Anna had been protected by divine intervention, that God had preserved her for reasons beyond human understanding. Others whispered that something darker might be involved, that perhaps Anna had made some kind of bargain, or had been taken by something that lived in the depths of the lake. The indigenous Ojibwe people who had lived in the region long before European settlers arrived had legends about spirits in Lake Superior, beings that could take people and hold them in timeless places beneath the water. These legends were usually dismissed by the Swedish settlers as primitive superstition, but after Anna's return, even skeptical people began to wonder if there might be some truth to the old stories. Word of Anna's impossible survival reached the outside world when the next mailboat arrived. A newspaper reporter from Marquette made the journey to Beacon Point and interviewed Anna, Eric, Dr. Anderson, and other witnesses. His article, published in late September 1911, was picked up by wire services and appeared in newspapers across the country, usually with sensational headlines about the woman who couldn't drown or 9 days underwater and lives. Medical experts who read the reports expressed skepticism, suggesting that the timeline must be wrong, that Anna couldn't really have been in the water for 9 days, that there must be some other explanation. But the people of Beacon Point had maintained a careful watch after Anna disappeared. They knew exactly when she had vanished and exactly when she had been found. The 9-day timeline was accurate. Dr. Marcus Wellington from the University of Michigan Medical School traveled to Beacon Point in October 1911 to examine Anna and investigate the case. He spent 3 days interviewing witnesses and examining Anna, conducting various medical tests available at the time. His official report, published in the Journal of Medical Mysteries in 1912, acknowledged that the case defied normal medical understanding, but stopped short of attributing it to supernatural causes. Dr. Wellington proposed that Anna might have entered a deep hypothermic state that slowed her metabolic processes to the point where she required almost no oxygen or nutrients, essentially hibernating underwater like certain species of frogs can do. But he acknowledged that no such mechanism had ever been documented in humans, and that Anna's normal body temperature, when rescued, contradicted the hibernation theory. As an alternative, Dr. Wellington suggested that Anna might have spent most of the 9 days on land somewhere, suffering from amnesia, and only entered the water shortly before being found. But this theory required believing that Anna had wandered around the area for 9 days without being seen by anyone in a community where everyone knew everyone else, and that she had somehow survived outdoors without food or shelter during a period when nighttime temperatures had dropped near freezing. Neither explanation was satisfactory, and Dr. Wellington concluded his report by stating that the case remained medically inexplicable and recommended further study if similar cases ever appeared. Anna herself seemed strangely unaffected by the experience, at least outwardly. She returned to her normal routine, caring for her children, mending nets, processing fish, maintaining the household. But those close to her noticed subtle changes. She became quieter, more withdrawn, spending long periods staring out at the lake as if waiting for something or trying to remember something just beyond reach. She sometimes woke from sleep with a startled expression, as if returning from somewhere far away. And several times, Eric found her sitting on the back steps where she had last remembered sitting before her disappearance, touching the wood as if trying to trigger the missing memories. The children adapted to having their mother back, but they remained wary around her for some time, as if sensing that something had changed that they couldn't quite identify. Anna's daughter, who was only 4 years old, sometimes asked where her mother had gone during those 9 days, as if she could perceive that an absence had occurred even if she didn't understand its nature. Anna would tell her daughter that she had been sleeping, which was technically what she remembered, but the answer never seemed to satisfy the child. As months and then years passed, life in Beacon Point returned to normal, or as normal as it could be with the knowledge that something impossible had happened in their midst. Anna lived the rest of her life in that red house by the lake, raising her children, growing old with Eric, maintaining her position as a reliable and respected member of the community. She died in 1947 at the age of 67, having lived 36 years after her mysterious disappearance and return. Her death was from natural causes, heart failure, the same thing that eventually claims everyone. But even in death, the mystery remained unsolved. At her funeral, several older residents of Beacon Point spoke about that strange September in 1911, how Anna had vanished and returned, how she had survived the impossible. They spoke about how Anna had never recovered her memories of those 9 days, how she had lived the rest of her life with a gap in her past that could never be filled. And they spoke about how sometimes, particularly on September nights, when the wind came off Lake Superior just right, you could still hear something out on the water, a sound like a woman's voice calling, though whether it was calling someone or answering a call from somewhere beneath the waves, no one could say. The case of Anna Katherine Bergstrom has been studied by researchers interested in unusual survival stories, though it remains fundamentally unexplainable. Modern medical science has no framework for understanding how a human could survive 9 days in Lake Superior's frigid waters without suffering hypothermia, drowning, or death from dehydration and starvation. The fact that Anna showed no physical effects from the ordeal, that her body temperature was normal, that she had no water damage to her lungs or signs of prolonged immersion, suggests either that the documented timeline is somehow wrong or that something occurred outside the boundaries of known physiology. Some researchers have proposed that Anna might have been taken aboard a ship during her time in the water, cared for, and then returned, with her amnesia being either genuine or feigned to protect her rescuers. But this theory doesn't explain why no ship reported finding a woman in the water, and it doesn't explain how Anna ended up in the water in the first place, or why she was found tangled in a fishing net rather than floating on the surface. Others have suggested psychological explanations. That Anna's memory of hanging laundry and then waking in the boat might be false memories covering a traumatic event she couldn't consciously process. But psychological trauma doesn't explain physical impossibility of surviving 9 days in water that should kill within hours. The indigenous Ojibwe explanation, that Anna had been taken by spirits or had spent those 9 days in a timeless place beneath the lake, is dismissed by mainstream science, but remains the explanation that many local residents, particularly those of Native American heritage, find most satisfying. In Ojibwe tradition, Lake Superior is known as Gichigami, meaning Great Sea, and is considered to be inhabited by powerful water spirits called Mishibiju-Gat-Dao. These spirits are said to live in deep underwater caves and occasionally take humans to their realm, sometimes returning them and sometimes keeping them forever. According to these traditions, time in the spirit realm doesn't flow the same way it does in the human world, which would explain why Anna experienced no time passing while 9 days elapsed in the normal world. Whether one accepts supernatural explanations or insists on seeking natural causes, the case of Anna Katherine Bergstrom remains profoundly disturbing. A woman disappeared from her backyard, was found 9 days later in Lake Superior showing no effects from her ordeal, and had no memory of what had occurred. The official records are clear. The timeline is verified by multiple witnesses, and the medical impossibility is well documented. Something happened that shouldn't be possible, and the fact that Anna lived a normal life afterward doesn't make the mystery any less profound. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the case is Anna's loss of memory. What did she experience during those 9 days? Was she conscious beneath the water, aware but unable to move or respond? Was she in some other place entirely, a place where the rules of time and survival don't apply? Or was she simply gone? Her consciousness shut down completely, her body preserved by some mechanism we don't understand. These questions remain unanswered, and Anna took whatever happened to her grave. The red house on the shore at Beacon Point still stands, though it has been renovated and modernized and is now owned by a family that knows nothing of its history. The fishing village itself has shrunk to a handful of seasonal residences as commercial fishing declined and younger generations moved away seeking opportunities elsewhere. But on certain September nights, they say, you can still see lights on the water where no boats should be, and you can hear voices calling across the waves in Swedish, calling a name that sounds like Anna, though whether it's someone calling to her or her calling back, no one can say. What happened to Anna Katherine Bergstrom? How did she survive 9 days in Lake Superior? Where was she during that time? These questions have no satisfactory answers, only theories and speculation, and the uncomfortable knowledge that sometimes reality contains impossibilities that we cannot explain away. Do you believe there is a rational explanation for Anna's survival? Or did something truly impossible occur on Lake Superior in 1911? Leave your comment below and tell us your thoughts about this case that defies medical understanding. If this story made you wonder about the limits of human survival and the mysteries that sometimes emerge from deep water, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share with someone who appreciates impossible survival stories. Remember, the world's deepest waters hold secrets that we may never understand, and sometimes those secrets rise to the surface in forms we cannot explain. See you in the next video.